Imagine walking into a hospital, right? And you're about to have a surgeon literally cut open your neck and fuse your spine together.
Right, which is a major procedure.
Exactly. And it's entirely based on what they see on an MRI scan. Sounds like, standard modern medicine.
Sure, you get a scan, they fix the problem.
But what if you physically couldn't even have an MRI because, I don't know, your body is completely riddled with bullet fragments?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that changes things.
It really does. What happens when a medical chart stops being a record of your actual health and starts being basically a prop in this massive financial production? Welcome to the deep dive.
It's great to be here. We've got a lot to get through today.
We really do, because if you've ever looked at a medical bill or like your auto insurance premium and wondered why it's just so astronomically high, today's exploration is going to hand you the exact blueprint.
We are looking at a profoundly unsettling world today, and it's all based entirely on a highly detailed 50-plus page civil complaint that was recently filed in the New York Supreme Court.
Yeah, I read through the sources, and the plaintiffs here, which includes New York Marine and General Insurance Company, they've laid out something truly remarkable.
Right. They are suing a prominent personal injury law firm called Subin Associates.
But, I mean, this isn't just a basic grievance against some lawyers, right?
Mhm.
The lawsuit also targets a spinal surgeon named Dr. Michael C. Gerling and this litigation funder named Neil Magnus for fraud.
Exactly. And the plaintiffs, they aren't describing a few exaggerated slip and fall claims. They are detailing what the complaint explicitly calls the Subin Blueprint.
The Subin Blueprint.
Yeah. It's a systemic 10-year operation involving hundreds of cases, medically unnecessary spinal fusions, and this incredibly complex web of predatory loans. If you look at the visual setup on the screen behind me, I've got this split screen going. On one side, you have a traditional legal library with volumes of case law, and on the other, a medical x-ray light board. Usually, these two worlds interact very carefully.
Right. Medical facts are supposed to inform the legal outcomes.
Exactly. But the complaint alleges the Subin Blueprint completely merged these into a single industrialized money printing machine.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is this blueprint according to the complaint? Because from reading through it, it sounds like they essentially built a reverse engineered assembly line.
That's a really good way to put it.
It's like taking your car to a mechanic who is secretly being paid by the auto body shop next door. The mechanic isn't looking for what's actually broken, They're looking for what the body shop needs to replace to hit their monthly quota.
Yeah, they start with the final price tag they want and work backward to manufacture the necessary injuries.
Right.
Well, to build an assembly line that efficient, you need a highly organized factory floor. And in this complaint, that floor is a place called Clinic 1, which is also known as All Borough Medical Rehabilitation.
Okay, Clinic 1.
And the most compelling evidence we have about how Clinic 1 actually operated comes directly from the inside. It's from a sworn declaration from a man named Stephen Weisbluth.
Yeah, I noticed Weisbluth in the filing. He was the managing director of Clinic 1 for nearly a decade, right? From 2016 to 2025. But he isn't a medical doctor, is he?
No, he's a businessman. And according to his sworn statement, which he made under penalty of perjury, mind you, he was hired directly by Neil Magnus.
The litigation funder.
Exactly, the guy financing these cases. When Weisbluth was brought on, he was explicitly instructed that the lawyer, Herb Subin, would be providing the entire stream of patients to the clinic.
Wait, so the patients aren't coming in because they, looked up a local doctor on Google or because their primary care physician referred them?
No, not at all.
They are being routed to a medical clinic directly by their personal injury lawyer.
Driven entirely by litigation, yes.
So?
Furthermore, Weisbluth swore that he operated under these rigidly mandated rules. Herb Subin instructed that absolutely all MRI referrals had to go to one specific place, Kolb Radiology.
Oh, wow, so no shopping around.
None. And any time a patient needed a surgical referral, it had to come from a highly restricted shortlist handpicked by Subin himself.
Just a few specific doctors.
Right. And Weisbluth, a non-physician, made the referral decisions based on this legal shortlist. He was assessing factors like location and the patient's legal funding status, not their health. What's fascinating here is the complete inversion of the medical standard of care.
It's completely backward.
Treatment wasn't being dictated by what was best for the patient's physical health. It was being dictated by a lawyer's financial instructions and executed by a non-medical clinic director.
I have to stop you there. Because if a non-physician is using a lawyer's checklist to assign, complex spinal surgeries, How do the actual doctors justify cutting into a patient in their medical charts?
That's the million-dollar question.
Didn't anyone auditing these files notice that the medical paperwork just didn't match the physical reality of the patient?
Oh, the paperwork had massive glaring red flags.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the actual mechanisms of this operation. To understand how brazen this got, we really need to look at the first major case study in the complaint, a man named Crescencio Guevara.
Guevara's timeline is wild, like truly unbelievable. He claims he tripped on a broken sidewalk on June 7th, 2019. Now, normally, if you fall hard enough to eventually require a multi-level spinal fusion, you're calling an ambulance, right?
You'd think so. Or at least going straight to urgent care.
Yeah. But the records show he just got up and walked 20 blocks to a bodega to get a cup of coffee.
He then walked home. And he didn't seek any medical attention at all until 2 days later, when he walked nearly a mile to a local hospital.
And the intake records at that hospital are crucial, aren't they?
Very. Guevara complained about his ankle and his back, but he registered absolutely zero complaints about his neck. The attending physician specifically noted his neck was supple, with a full range of motion.
So no neck injury at the time of the accident?
None. He was discharged with 0 out of 10 pain.
But shortly after, he signs a power of attorney with the Subin law firm. And somehow he finds his way to Clinic 1. Does the complaint actually say who referred him there?
Yeah, this part is bizarre. Guevara claimed he was referred to the clinic by a mysterious friend known only as Jesus.
Jesus. Just a guy named Jesus.
Yep. And once inside Clinic 1, the blueprint takes over. They send him to Kolb Radiology for an MRI and then wrote him to Dr. Michael Gerling, who was a surgeon on that hand-picked shortlist.
You mentioned red flags in the paperwork earlier. When Dr. Gerling recommended a highly complex 2-level spinal fusion for Guevara, didn't he base that on the MRI?
He did. But the complaint points out a stunning chronological impossibility. Dr. Gerling actually signed for the receipt of Guevara's MRI results 5 months before he ever met Guevara.
Wait, he signed for the scans 5 months before the patient ever walked into his office.
That's what the records say.
That implies he already knew what surgery he was going to perform before he even laid eyes on the man? Before he checked his reflexes or asked him where it hurt?
That is the core allegation here. Despite multiple preoperative physicals where Guevara explicitly denied having any neck pain, Dr. Gerling's preoperative diagnosis suddenly lifted severe neck pain, radiating numbness, and weakness.
It's like he just invented it.
He took a patient with no documented neck trauma and manufactured a severe surgical case on paper. And the operative report detailing the surgery itself is where the physical reality completely breaks down.
The complaint calls out the specific procedure, right? An anterior cervical discectomy and fusion, or ACDF. Can you explain what that actually entails for the patient? Because it sounds incredibly invasive.
It is extremely invasive. In an ACDF, the surgeon makes an incision in the front of the patient's throat.
Ugh, the front.
Yeah, they literally have to move the trachea and esophagus aside to access the spine from the front.
Oh, wow. That is major surgery.
Absolutely. They drill out the damaged discs between the vertebrae, they insert a bone graft, and then they screw a titanium plate into the spine to hold everything together while it fuses.
Okay. And how long does something like that normally take?
Well, the complaint cites peer-reviewed medical studies showing the mean time to carefully perform a 2-level ACDF is about 145 minutes.
And what did Dr. Gerling's operative report claim?
He claimed to have completed this highly complex, delicate spinal procedure in just 68 minutes.
68 minutes. That's less than half the average time.
To put that in perspective, the absolute fastest time ever recorded in the major studies they cited was 72 minutes, and that was considered an extreme outlier.
So Dr. Gerling allegedly beat the world record.
Basically, yes.
And there's a detail in the complaint about the hardware that really caught my eye. Gerling's report explicitly stated he implanted a titanium plate and screws into Guevara's spine.
Right, which is standard for the procedure.
But when the plaintiffs pulled the hospital's internal implant logs for that specific surgery, the titanium plate is entirely missing. It's completely unaccounted for.
It just isn't there.
How does a piece of surgical metal just vanish from a hospital's inventory? Does that mean he performed a sham surgery and didn't put a plate in at all? Or was he using, like, off-the-books hardware?
It raises profound questions about what actually occurred in that operating room. But the bizarre medical anomalies, believe it or not, are only half of the blueprint.
Right, there's the money side.
The other half is the financial vice. Bypassing health insurance is the key to unlocking this entire operation.
I need you to explain this financial part, because the complaint talks a lot about litigation advances and legal liens. How does this trap the case?
Okay. Normally, if you need surgery, your health insurance negotiates a set rate with the hospital. Maybe they agree to pay $2,000 for a procedure, right?
Yeah, standard billing.
But the Subin Blueprint bypasses health insurance entirely. Instead, a litigation funding company, in this case Best Case Funding, which is owned by Neil Magnus, the same man who set up Clinic One, they pay a small cash advance up front.
Okay.
The medical clinic then slaps a legal lien on the patient's future lawsuit settlement. A lien essentially means the medical providers get first dibs on whatever the jury awards.
So they get paid out of the lawsuit winnings, not by health insurance.
Exactly. And because they aren't constrained by health insurance contracts, they can bill astronomical fantasy rates.
And the interest rates on these advances are just staggering. The complaint shows an initial advance of $83,500.
The compounding math outlined in the filing defies traditional finance. With the specific interest rates applied, if that loan wasn't paid off, the 30-day payoff amount ballooned to over $828,000.
Wait, $828,000 in 30 days?
Yes, and if it wasn't paid within the next 14 days after that, it jumped to over $1,019,000.
This isn't a medical treatment plan, it's a hostage situation. It's like an anvil dropped on the lawsuit. Think about it. If an insurance company looks at a minor slip and fall and evaluates it at, say, $50,000, they can never settle the case out of court.
They physically can't.
The plaintiff already owes $1 million just to pay off the interest on their medical lines. It forces everyone into a high-stakes trial.
It artificially inflates the floor of the case. The lawyer can stand in front of a jury and say, look, my client has over $1 million in medical debt.
Which drives up the contingency fee, the percentage the lawyer takes home, and guarantees the funder gets a massive payout.
Precisely. Now, Guevara's case shows how they allegedly manipulated timelines and surgical records. But to understand how brazen this operation got, we have to look at how they bypassed reality entirely with the next case study, Napoleon Aquino.
Yeah, if Guevara was bending reality, Aquino is fabricating it entirely.
The Aquino case takes the blueprint to its logical, terrifying extreme. Aquino claims he had a fall on June 12, 2019. And just like Guevara, he's referred to Clinic One by a friend named Jesus.
Jesus strikes again.
Right. But less than 2 weeks after his fall, Aquino goes to a hospital to get a physical for a new job. He reports 0 out of 10 pain and is completely cleared for full-time work.
But a few months later, in January 2020, things take a very dark turn in Atlantic City.
Aquino runs a red light and crashes his car head-on into a parked vehicle. When the police arrive, he resists. The police video, which is detailed in the complaint, shows officers physically tackling him to the ground.
Tackling him.
Yeah, putting a knee in his back and eventually shoving him into the back of a police cruiser by his shoulders. Throughout all of this extreme physical trauma, he exhibits absolutely no signs of neck pain.
And then he was committed, right?
Yes. Furthermore, he was involuntarily committed to a psychiatric facility on the same day he was released.
Yet, just weeks after being tackled by police and involuntarily committed, Dr. Gerling performs a cervical spinal fusion on him. And in the medical records, Dr. Gerling explicitly justified cutting into Aquino's spine by citing an MRI demonstrating posterior disc herniation.
Which, sounds like a standard objective medical justification for surgery.
Except, according to the complaint, Napoleon Aquino never had an MRI. I read the medical background in the filing. It says Aquino had survived 2 separate shooting incidents earlier in his life.
He still had bullet fragments lodged inside his body.
Right. Wait, if he had bullet fragments in his body, how did he even get into an MRI machine? Isn't an MRI essentially a giant, incredibly powerful magnet?
It is. If you put someone with metal bullet fragments into an MRI machine, the magnetic force could literally rip the metal right through their tissue. It is physically impossible and potentially fatal for him to have had that scan.
That's insane.
The medical chart relied on an imaging study that could not physically exist.
And the coincidences in this ecosystem just keep compounding. The complaint notes that on the exact same day Aquino received his spinal fusion from Dr. Gerling, another patient received the exact same surgery from the same doctor.
A patient named Lisa Acosta, who just so happened to be the official witness to Aquino's original accident.
You've got to be kidding me.
And she, too, was a client of the Subin law firm. She, too, went through Clinic One, Kolb Radiology, and Dr. Gerling. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at how these providers insulated themselves from detection. How do you get away with phantom MRIs and identical surgeries on witnesses?
Well, because they completely bypassed the health insurance industry. If you try to bill a standard health insurance company for a spinal fusion, they have auditors. They have panels of independent doctors who review the MRI and verify if the surgery is actually medically necessary before they agree to pay for it.
Precisely.
Right.
By operating strictly on a system of legal leases and litigation funding, the Subin Blueprint removed the traditional medical gatekeepers. There's no insurance board reviewing the pre-op scans.
Right.
There's no one checking if the surgery times are physically possible or if the hardware actually made it into the patient's body. The only oversight left is the legal system itself.
Which brings me to a question that was literally screaming in my head while reading this. If the medical evidence was literally impossible, like an MRI that never happened on a guy full of bullet fragments, how did this survive the basic scrutiny of the court system for years? Was everyone just asleep at the wheel?
That is the inherent vulnerability of the civil justice system. The courts rely heavily on a basic presumption of good faith. When a licensed, board-certified doctor signs an operative report on official medical letterhead, the judge and the defense attorneys generally presume the surgery actually happened as described.
Because why wouldn't they?
Right. It takes an incredible amount of digging, cross-referencing, and subpoenaing third-party records like Atlantic City Police body cam footage or job physical records to unravel a lie wrapped in medical jargon. And remember, the blueprint wasn't designed for scrutiny. It was designed for volume and intimidation.
The scale of this is just hard to wrap your head around. It's not just Guevara and Aquino.
Not at all. The complaint lists at least 248 other legal dockets that show the exact same pattern.
248.
The exact same flow. The Subin law firm directing to Clinic 1, sending to Cole Radiology, resulting in a funded surgery, usually by Dr. Gerling or someone on the short list.
248 cases, and the anomalies read like a dark comedy. Take the case of Leslie Ortiz. Her case revealed what the complaint calls a pod. 12 different claimants, all 12 originating from the exact same apartment building in Manhattan.
And all 12 were routed into the pipeline by the same runner, a man named Arnulfo Serrano. And a runner, for context, is someone illegally paid to solicit clients for a law firm.
Right. Ortiz actually spoke to a judge about this, didn't she? Her own words in court were, "I only allowed my doctor to convince me when he said, 'You are going to feel better, but I feel worse.'"
Yeah, that's heartbreaking.
She also told the judge that Dr. Gerling refused to even see her or give her pain medication unless she retained a lawyer.
Which completely strips away the illusion of a doctor-patient relationship.
Yeah.
The medical treatment was held hostage, entirely contingent on her participation in the litigation.
And there are others. Like, a claimant named Darrell Wright claimed he fell on an interior step at his girlfriend's apartment building in the Bronx. He got the fusion surgery, the $1 million limbs, the whole 9 yards. But when the defense attorneys finally tracked down and subpoenaed the so-called girlfriend, she had no idea who he was and didn't even live in that building.
Or consider Pierre Santos, who testified under oath that he was approached by a runner in a deli and handed a lawyer's business card immediately after being released from federal prison.
Just right there in the deli.
Yep, he had no intention of suing anyone. Next thing you know, he's receiving spinal surgery. The conduct became so blatant that the complaint notes a Supreme Court justice in Queens previously stated on the record that Dr. Gerling's conduct was bordering on criminality. Following internal investigations, he actually had to resign his surgical privileges at NYU and Lenox Hill hospitals.
So what does this all mean? We've talked about phantom MRIs, 68-minute surgeries, and loans that balloon by hundreds of thousands of dollars in a month. But why should you, the person listening to this right now, care about a lawsuit between an insurance company and a law firm?
This raises an important question, because it is very easy to dismiss this as just wealthy corporations fighting with trial lawyers over money.
Yeah.
But that ignores how the financial ecosystem actually works. Where do you think the insurance company gets the money to pay out these artificially inflated million-dollar settlements?
They get it from you. They get it from the premiums we all pay.
Exactly. This kind of industrialized fraud is not a victimless crime against a faceless corporation. It is the direct mechanism that causes auto insurance premiums to skyrocket for everyday drivers.
Yeah.
It's why property insurance for apartment buildings doubles, forcing landlords to raise your rent just to cover their overhead. It clogs up the judicial system with fabricated claims, delaying justice for people with legitimate, life-altering injuries who have to wait years to get a trial date.
And beyond the financial impact on your wallet, there is a horrifying human cost here. We are talking about subjecting vulnerable, often low-income individuals, immigrants, and people struggling with addiction to permanent, medically unjustifiable bodily alterations.
It's a violation of trust.
cutting into someone's spine when they don't need it, leaving them in worse pain than they started. They essentially treated the human spine like a blank check. They weren't operating to heal, they were operating to create the ultimate, undeniable receipt for a lawsuit.
That is the chilling core of the Subin Blueprint. It describes a closed-loop ecosystem where legal ethics and medical ethics were allegedly traded for highly efficient profit. And what should give everyone pause is that this level of organized coordination doesn't happen in dark alleys.
No, it doesn't.
It hides in plain sight in our cities, utilizing the very hospitals, courts, and financial systems designed to protect us.
It is a staggering amount of information to process. But it's exactly why we do these deep dives, to take these dense, complex legal filings and show you the mechanics of the world operating right under your nose.
It's important to shine a light on it.
We want to thank you for joining us on this exploration today. If there is one practical takeaway from all of this, it's a reminder to always ask questions, especially when it comes to your health. Always seek a second opinion, independent of anyone who might have a financial stake in your diagnosis.
I will leave you with this final thought to mull over. If the allegations in this complaint hold true, if a surgeon's scalpel can be directed by a lawyer's spreadsheet, and a medical chart can be written before a patient even walks into the room, it forces us to ask a very uncomfortable question.
Yeah.
When you enter a doctor's office and that door clicks shut behind you, how can you ever be absolutely sure whether you are being treated as a patient or being processed as a financial asset?
And suddenly, that clean, comforting X-ray doesn't look so objective anymore. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.